tell you a story that's a Native American story. And Native American stories originally happened a long time ago, before there were TVs and telephones and even books. And so, to share the stories of the people, there were storytellers, and they would tell the stories. And the job of the listeners was to be good listeners. And the way that the storyteller could tell that is sometimes they would check in with their audience. And the way they would do that is they would say, ho, and the audience would respond with, hey. Ho.
Hey.
Ho.
Hey.
Once there was a little mouse. And that mouse was busy with mice things, scurrying about with his nose down to the ground, smelling and investigating and gathering up seeds and such, like all busy mice will do. But sometimes this little mouse would stop and put his ears up and twitch his whiskers and sniff the air. And he would wonder, what is that sound I hear off in the distance? Well, he would go about his business, but he kept hearing this sound, and so he thought, well, I'll ask Brother Mouse. Well, Brother Mouse was busy, and when he said hello to him, he didn't even lift his head. He just continued doing his busy work, and Little Mouse said, Brother Mouse, do you hear a roaring in your ears? What is this silliness? I hear no sounds. Now, I am busy. I must go away now. Leave me be. Poor little mouse. Well, then he went to Sister Mouse, and he said, Sister Mouse, do you hear a roaring in your ears? What are you, plumb crazy? Oh, I have no time to bother with this. And she scurried off down a hole in a cottonwood tree. Well, little mouse could not forget the sound that was in his ear. And so he decided one day to investigate it. And so he decided to leave his family of mice, and he started off in his way. But remember, mice are very, 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 very small, aren't they? And the whole world around them is very large. And every sound, snap, and smell is quite frightening. And so little mouse, as he started down the path towards that sound, all of a sudden he heard, hello. And poor Jumpy Mouse, he almost jumped right out of his skin. He was so frightened. And then he heard it again. Hello there, little brother. It is I, Raccoon. Oh, hello, Raccoon. Raccoon asked, what brings you here, out from your mouse family? Oh, well, you see, I hear a roaring in my ears, and I'm going to investigate it. Oh, well, I know what that roaring is, said Brother Raccoon. That is the river. A river? What's that? Said Mouse. Well, why don't I just take you and show you? Little Mouse thought, oh, and all my mouse friends said that I was crazy. I will show them. I'm going to follow Raccoon. And so he followed right behind Raccoon, and all along the way, he smelled all kinds of other animals that had been along that path. And so many times he got so frightened, he almost ran back home. But he pulled together his convictions and followed Raccoon until they got to the edge of the river. And it was roaring. It was so loud out when he was right in front of it. That water was moving so fast, and it was so big that he couldn't even see all the way across that river. And so Brother Raccoon said to him, "Oh, this is the river." And Little Mouse didn't even know what to say. All he could say was, "Wow." Raccoon said, "I'd like you to meet one of my friends." And so, all of a sudden, over on a little green, slippery rock was a very slimy-looking green animal. And it said, "Hello there, little brother." "Why, who are you?" said the mouse. "I am Frog." And Little Mouse said, "Well, aren't you frightened to be out in this big river?" And the frog said, "Why, no, this is where I was born. And sometimes in the winter I live under the ground and you do not see me. But for the rest of the year I am out. And I am here because I am the keeper of the waters." "Oh," said Jumping Mouse. And then the frog said to him, he said, "Would you like some medicine?" "Oh, for me? Medicine? Oh, yes, please." "Okay, then listen very carefully. I want you to crouch down as low as you can and jump as high as you can." And so Jumping Mouse did. And when he jumped up, he saw the most beautiful thing way off in the distance. It was the sacred mountains. And then he fell back to earth and he fell right into the water. And poor Little Mouse, he scurried up onto the bank and he said, You tricked me." "Ah, did I? No. Are you hurt?" Well, no, but I'm all wet and I'm scared." "Ah, do not let your anger and your fear blind you. What did you see?" "Well, I saw the sacred mountains." "Ah, yes, you did. And I have a new name for you. You are now Jumping Mouse." "Oh, thank you. Oh, my goodness. I must return to my people and tell them all about what I have seen." "Ah, this you shall do. Now just remember to get back to them. Just keep the sound of the river at your back, and you will find them sure enough." And so that's what he did. And when he got back to his mice people, he was so excited to cheer them and let them know that they're wrong. And do you know what he found? Disappointment. Those other mice were not very nice to Little Mouse, because do you know what they did? They didn't believe him. And even worse, they were now scared of him, because Jumping Mouse did not look the same. Do you remember what happened to him? He was so wet. Thank you, JC. Ho.
Hey.
Well, there had been no rain. So for the mice family, this was just strange. And it meant only one other thing. It meant that he had been in the mouth of another animal. And if he was still here, that meant he was spit out, which obviously means he's poisoned. So from then on, the rest of the families of mice, they just kind of avoided Jumping Mouse. And he just could not forget what he had seen, those sacred mountains. And so finally, he decided to go on his own. He was determined to find those sacred mountains. And so he pulled up all of his determination and all of his convictions, and he took a deep breath as he looked out at that prairie front of them. And do you know that what was above, circling all those black spots in the sky, do you know what they were?
Eagles.
Eagles, thank you. Yes, they were eagles. And what do eagles like to eat?
Mountains.
Yes, they do. And so, with his heart pounding in his chest, he said, I've got to do this. And so he took a really deep breath and he started running as fast as he could until he was out of breath. And he pulled himself under a sagebrush. And when he got there, he did what all mice do. He right away started investigating, and he heard a, oh, there. Actually, that's the wrong voice. But it was an old mouse. I need my old mouse voice to come out of me. Hello, hello there. Help me with this. I'm just not finding it. But the point is that the old mouse said, welcome. Oh, and Jumping Mouse said, oh, what a beautiful place you have here. You have everything you would ever need as a mouse. Yes, this is true, he said. Oh, won't you please stay with me? And Jumping Mouse said, oh, no. I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey to Sacred Mountains. Sacred Mountains? Oh, young one, that is just a myth. Stay with me where you will be safe, and there's plenty to eat and water for you always. Well, Jumping Mouse was not happy to hear this. He couldn't believe that the wise old mouse was saying that the Sacred Mountains were just a myth. And so he thanked him for his hospitality, and he again went to the edge where the prairie was, and he took his deep breath, help me, and he started running until he got out of breath again. And he pulled himself under a chokecherry bush. And there under the bush, oh, it was so nice in the shade, and there was water, oh, and there were so many new things to investigate, and his little mouse body was just like so ready to get busy and do all these things when he heard a sound. And it went like this. I hope y'all can hear me. I just realized I don't have my microphone on. Giant mound of black, brownish fur, and these horns coming out of his head. It's one of those animals of the prairie. Does anybody know who it was?
Bulls.
Bulls? Not bulls. Very close.
Bear.
It was the great buffalo. Good job. And the buffalo said to little Jumping Mouse, oh, little friend. And Jumping Mouse says, oh, dear, what is wrong with you? And the buffalo said, I am very sick, and I am dying. Oh, I have been told that the only medicine to cure me is the eye of a mouse. But you know, little friend, mice do not exist. And so Jumping Mouse ran back underneath that bush, and he thought to himself, oh my goodness, such a great being. Oh my goodness, this wise being, and he needs what only I have. I do have 2 eyes, very good ones. And so Jumping Mouse decided to go back to the buffalo. And he went to his side and whispered in his ear, and he said, Buffalo, I am a mouse, and I have 2 good eyes. I will give you one of my eyes. And at that very moment, out of his socket flew his eyeball, and that great bison my great medicine, and I am the one who guides those to the medicine mountains. I will now give you a great gift, for you have given the greatest sacrifice and given back my life. Come with me. What we will do is you will scurry and be underneath my body and my feet, and we will head to the sacred mountains, and that way the eagles above will only see the top of my body. And so that's what they did. And they walked all the way along the prairie until they got to the base of that mountain, and the bison, the buffalo, said to Jumping Mouse, he said, "This is where we stop. This is the base of the sacred mountains." "Oh, thank you so much. But oh, I was so frightened that while we walked, that you would step on me with your great big hooves." "Oh," said the buffalo, "there was no need to worry, for I danced the sun dance, and I know exactly where my feet are going to fall." So the buffalo went on to guide others to the sacred mountains, and Jumping Mouse sat there, frightened, with only his one eye. And then he started investigating, and he came upon a gray furry animal, and he said, "Oh, Brother Wolf!" "Wolf, wolf, wolf! Oh yes, I'm a wolf, I'm a wolf!" Jumping Mouse didn't know what was going on. He said, "Wolf, are you okay?" "Wolf, wolf, 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 wolf! Oh my goodness, I'm a wolf!" "Oh my goodness, such a great being, but he has no memory. I know just what I can do to help him, because he truly needs his memory back." And so, do you know what he did? Jumping Mouse, he went over to Wolf and he said, "Wolf, I have some medicine for you. I will give you my one eye." And right when he said that, out of his socket flew his eyeball, and that wolf became whole again. But now, Jumping Mouse, he could not see. And Wolf, there were tears running down his face because he was so joyful of the gift that he had given him. But poor Jumping Mouse could not see that. Wolf told him, "Do you know I am the one who will take you to the sacred mountains? That is my job. Climb onto my back and I will take you there." And so that's what the wolf did. And when they got to the sacred mountains, a beautiful medicine lake was in front of them. And the wolf said, "Here is where I leave you." And Little Mouse took a little sip of that water. But before I do, the wolf said, "I will tell you what I see. For here in this medicine lake, all of the peoples and the animals are reflected. And those sacred mountains that you so wanted to come to are reflected in its waters." Jumping Mouse says, "I know you must go. You must lead other people here. Thank you." And so there sat Jumping Mouse, trembling. He could smell, and he could hear, and he could sense those shadows, those black shadows circling over him. And then he heard the sound, the call of the eagle. And he braced himself, and then Jumpy Mouse did? He crouched very, very low, and he jumped up into the air, and the wind caught him, and he started rising up into the sky, swirling above, and the voice called out to him, "Do not be afraid, for now you have a new name." For as he soared up there higher and higher, and he looked out below, he could see clearly now that Medicine Lake and all of those mountains. And that voice again said, "You are now Eagle." And that is all. I believe in spirals. Spirals that go within, spirals that transcend, moving up in the vertical realm. An upward moving spiral going up, round and round, but yet not ever quite meeting at exactly the same spot. Many times in my life, I have felt like I am just repeating the same patterns or mistakes over and over again, feeling like I have been down that same road before. A moment of deja vu where I think, I am right back where I started from. It was a way of looking at my life that wasn't serving me in a positive way. Then during a meditation one day, I saw before me a spiral. And it was as if that spiral was my life. With that familiar process of coming back around, but now with a slightly new look, a different perspective. I came out of that meditation that day with a new understanding and compassion for myself. I am growing as a person. I am maturing. Spirals of self-discovery. One of the beautiful practices that I have learned as a Unitarian Universalist is that we honor each other's spiritual growth. It is even part of 2 of our 7 principles. So for those of you who were on the retreat this past weekend and were part of the Amazing Race, a lot of you weren't, but Michael knows, one of the spots that we had to go was Andrew, and you were to recite all 7 principles, and it was very challenging. And most people knew the first one and the 7th one, but those in between. Anyway, okay, so here's 2 to add, maybe to your repertoire. The 3rd principle states, we have acceptance for one another, and that we encourage spiritual growth in our congregations. The 4th principle gives us the freedom to undergo our own responsible search for truth and meaning. So we accept that we all can come from different backgrounds and are on different paths, from atheism to paganism to Judaism. But here, this is a safe place where we can search out our beliefs while being supported and encouraged along the way. So when I was asked to give this sermon, since I had been part of the shared pulpit class that both Chris and Joanne Dingus put together, I knew I wanted to incorporate the story of Jumpy Mouse as part of my spiritual journey. Not only was this a story that I had a personal experience with telling it many times when I was back in my 20s to children, which was done, by the way, in sections as we hiked up a mountain. It was quite powerful, and we ended at the river. But I love the symbolism of how a curious yet frightened mouse did so much by following his dreams. Dreams after. This ancient story that was printed in the book 7 Arrows has been a wise story for many. It turns out that Miss Connie Ralston made me aware and shared with me when I told her what I was going to be doing today that there's a local Virginia Beach author, Mary Elizabeth Marlowe, who had written an entire book on it. An in-depth look at analyzing how it is a story of transformation and a journey about inner trust. Well, that was just perfect. No wonder the story has spoken to me for years. Learning to trust in the unknown, and to trust that all will be okay is a constant exercise for me. So this is my story about how medicine wheels, jumpy mouse, and spirals have become a part of my own spiritual journey. It only seems right that I tell you a bit about my parents, because it was the influence of my parents that formed my spirituality. I came from a family where my parents fought a lot, and it was often me, being the youngest, who ended up in the middle of their arguments, or even worse, I took sides. This made my relationship with my father difficult for most of my life, and it was really hard for me to see the gifts of my parents as individuals. But as I grew up, I spent time with them individually, and I began to see their special gifts and how much of them was in me. My mother was the spiritual seeker in the family. Coming from a strong Catholic upbringing, she found herself moving away from the church right around the time I was little and going on her own spiritual journey for the rest of her life. So I grew up with her constantly studying. She read the Bible, books that interpreted the Bible, and other metaphysical teachings. She belonged to a very small alternative church. And at that place, she would do healings on people. And when asked to come up to the pulpit, just no preparation. Joe, would you like to come up and talk? Oh, sure. Like I'm doing today, and I struggle to get to this point. Okay, anyway, she would just start speaking, and she would give a beautiful sermon. And later, when I would ask her, how did you do that? She would say to me, I was channeling spirit. She was my spiritual rock. My father, on the other hand, was a nature man. He never talked about his beliefs or participated in any kind of religion, but he was very spiritual in his own quiet way. He spent all of his free time outside with his hands in the dirt, tending his garden and creating things. As I went to college studying biology, I found that I had a lot in common with my dad. Our love for plants and hiking in the mountains became a strong connection between us. So with the influences of both my parents, I found that upon my first introduction to the medicine wheel, that I was taken by the ideas almost immediately. I was straight out of college, and I was hired on to work as a naturalist for an environmental education camp, which was called, and it still is there today, WOLF, an acronym for the Web of Life Field School. Pretty cool, huh? During this time, I had the opportunity to work with some amazingly talented people who could sing, play instruments, tell stories, and they had a lot of wisdom. One of these co-workers, Peter, introduced all of us naturalists to the teachings of the medicine wheel so that we could then share the spiritual practice that honored Mother Earth with children. He created a small wheel by placing a stone at the center and made an outer circle of stones, with one for each that represented the cardinal directions. He explained how each stone had a meaning. I won't tell you what all the cardinal directions mean, but one of them in particular, the stone of the south, represented the spirit keepers of innocence and trust, the mice, and the color green. Peter spoke of the wheel as a way of looking at your life. He said we all are at a different spot on the wheel depending on the time in our lives, and we will move around the wheel as life changes. I distinctly remember how profound this experience was for me. When I shared what I was learning to my mother, she was so happy for me that I had found a spiritual path that truly spoke to my heart. I was discovering the natural world and all of its wonderful surprises through the eyes of the children that I was teaching. Being outside and a part of nature gave me a new understanding and appreciation of the earth. I learned to be aware of the signs that nature was gifting me. I started to meditate, and my prayers, which had up to that point been addressed to God, began changing with references to the Great Spirits, or White Buffalo Woman. Finding Native American spirituality at the same time I was exposed to storytelling opened a whole new way of looking at the world for me. In my heart, I felt a special affinity to the playful energy of the South, that innocence and trust of the mouse. I could relate to the characteristics of the mouse, who was often so busy, who saw every detail, but was easily frightened and worried about the unknown. Was the mouse presenting itself as my spirit animal? Spirit animals can present themselves to you and show you parts of your personality, or offer guidance, or alert you to skills or talents you either possess or need to master. And then I got a confirmation. In 1992, I had the opportunity to attend a great Sun Bear medicine wheel gathering held in Oregon with a girlfriend. Sun Bear, who was sick at the time and wasn't actually present, was known for being a sacred teacher of Chippewa descent. He had a vision way back in the 70s where he saw all colors of people, the rainbow people, coming together to take part in these large medicine wheel dances. The gatherings were to bring healing to the individuals and to bring healing to the earth. In his book, Dancing with the Wheel, he explains the importance of the medicine wheel as an earth teaching that gives us a deeper understanding of how to connect with the powers of the Creator. It brings you down to earth, acknowledging all the parts of creation as our creation, the relations. All the relations refers to minerals, plants, and animals, which possess certain powers and have a protector spirit. When we need help, we pray for that spirit to help us. A ceremony in the medicine wheel is a way for humans to center their energy and connect with spirit powers who can help heal both humans and the earth. I had an incredible time at the gathering, where everything I participated in became a new awakening for me. When I got home to our apartment in Davis, I was so excited to share with Michael. While at the same time, I was a bit worried about how he would respond. I was fearful of opening up my heart to Michael. What would he think? Would he be accepting or think I'm a little crazy? Can you hear that jumping mouse saying to Rosalie, "Trust Rosalie"? However, when I did open up to him, it was just the opposite. He sat and listened intently as he always does. I shared with him how I had found out I was born under the moon of the mountain lion and that my power animal was revealed to me on the medicine wheel. I described the large medicine wheel that had been built in a large open field, and it was made of 36 stones that created the outside image. There's a very small image of it in your order of service with the spokes of the wheel and the center circle of stones too. During the medicine wheel workshop, we were told to enter at the point of the eastern rock where the sun rises. Then we were to walk in a clockwise direction, one time around the entire wheel, and then on the second circling, we were coached to tune in to any nuances or pulls we felt and to gravitate to those spots. When I walked the circle, I had to make a conscious effort to not just walk to the stone in the south that represented the mouse, because I kind of, had this feeling inside me, right? Instead, I had to focus inward and just kind of get out of my head until I was guided to that moment. And so after a while of searching, I found my rock, and I stood there. I found myself in the middle spoke, heading to the south. I was a little disappointed because I thought the mouse was my power animal, and that was not where I had been pulled to, but it was all good. Then the leader went around to each of us and talked about our choices we had made and why. Using the interpretation of the medicine wheel through Sun Bear's wisdom, it turned out that the place I had chosen to stand was the stone representing trust and the mouse. I was floored, and when I was sharing this with Michael, we both got goosebumps. This awareness that mice are my power animal has made me pay closer attention when they present themselves in my life. They seem to appear at times as a reminder to trust myself and to honor that playful, innocent side of life. At other times, it reminds me to check in with my fear levels or let go of collections of stuff, such as when I find them, they are nesting in our walls. I do know that every home Michael and I have lived in, we have been visited by mice. I have had many moments over the years when these little visitors have come into my life, some as recently as just this week, I kid you not, and I have not seen a mouse in a really long time, 2 of them. These visits from animals have become a thing that both Michael and I honor and respect as special messages that often say, you are on the right path. Jumping Mouse is a story of transformation, and I have found it to unveil parallel things in my life. If you recall, Jumping Mouse had to overcome some real fears. Fear is one of those emotions that we don't want to admit we feel. There is a bit of shame attached to it because admitting fear means you aren't that stoic, courageous lion that sometimes you might pretend to be. But I have found that recognizing fear in my life has been a great relief for me. I need to go back in time a bit. When I was 32 years old, I found myself, and I had not looked at the story of Jumping Mouse in a good 10 years. I found myself being visited by the story of Jumping Mouse in a most unexpected way. You see, I was giving birth to our second son at home. It was not the plan to have this be a home birth, mind you. But with contractions that happened overnight while I slept and mild contractions still by morning, I felt like I had a long way to go. And then it hit me. While Michael had left for just a moment to get Christopher across the street to our neighbors, everything started happening at full speed. It was as if my body was on auto labor mode. I could not stop the waves and contractions, nor could I stop my body from beginning to push. I hadn't experienced this with my first birth of my oldest son. And at that time, the doctor kept saying to me, "You're not pushing right." And I thought, what do you mean I'm not pushing right? Well, now I knew what he meant. Now I was experiencing what it meant for your body to push. In that moment, I had no conscious decision to push or not to push. Instead, it was a primordial action that my body instinctively knew what to do. So there I was, all alone on top of our bed, and I was scared. What am I going to do? I had always wanted a home birth, but not like this. So I started praying to my God and the great spirits interchangeably. Dear God, please make this okay. Please make this okay. Please make my baby be okay. And as if no time had passed, I felt a wave of calmness come over me like I had never experienced before. And I knew all would be okay. That calmness gave me a power I did not know I possessed. And then it happened. With my eyes closed and my spirit and body working in unison to bring this baby into the world, I had a vision. Now this had happened one other time in my life when I was giving birth to our older son. During one of those contractions, I saw myself flying over the orange-red outcroppings of the Southwest, the land of the great warriors of the Apache tribe. We had already chosen his name, or more exact, this seemed to be confirmation that he had chosen his name. Christopher Cochise, the great chief Cochise of the Apache. So there I was, on our marriage bed in the last stages of birth, and this vision appears to me. I see myself climbing a tall mountain When I get to the top of the mountain, I look all around. And I do a very scary thing. I jump. But when I jumped, I didn't fall, but instead I soared. I had become an eagle flying up high. Asher came into the world just fine, with his father there to deliver him and make sure all was well. And he too, I believe, guided us in choosing his name of Asher Byrd, B-Y-R-D. It wasn't until a long time after that I realized that the vision I had was parallel to the story of Jumping Mouse. At that moment, I was faced with an incredible fear of the unknown at a pivotal life and death moment. I did not cower, but like Jumping Mouse, I trusted and I went for it. I let go and I jumped. As Asher would say to me now, just do it, Mom. Instead of falling, I soared, and that little frightened mouse was indeed transformed to the all-seeing eagle. So this is how this story has become special for my journey, for it reminds me about transformation and about overcoming my greatest fears, a journey to acquire inner trust, to trust myself. Do you remember again where I landed on that medicine wheel way back in Oregon? Yep, it was the rock for trust. So there I was. I had come full circle, but this time I was on the next coil of the spiral, seeing things in a new light and with a new kind of courage. So this is what I have come to find out is my piece together faith. There is power in the unseen world. Pay close attention to the messages that the spirit world brings. Be it those messengers of the red-tailed hawk overhead, the butterfly or hummingbird that visits, or that little mouse who scurries by. Trust more, worry less. Oh my. Boy, was I worried. Thank you, family, for supporting me to get up here today. I have found that being a Unitarian Universalist has given me the freedom to explore my piece together faith without judgment or concern that I would offend someone. Where it is okay for me to be undecided on who I pray to, praying one day to God and the next day to the Great Spirits, or if I choose not to pray at all. Here we are safe to explore and adopt the spiritual practices that speak to us, be them one discipline or pieces of many. So may it be.